Hello, my Bill for Thousand Nation. How's everyone doing today? Hopefully, everyone's having a great day. If not, I hope it gets better from here. We are back with another Coffeehouse Crime. This one is titled The Viral Hippie Drifter That Chose Murder Instead. I don't believe he's a hippie. Hippies are some of the best people, bro. I'm telling you. All right. I'm excited for today's story. If you guys are excited as I am, go ahead. Turn them lights down low. Put on something comfy, cup with someone special. Let's get hippified.
So I f***ing ran up behind him with a hatchet. Smash, smash, smash.
This is Kai, and the video you've just watched comes from a viral interview that propelled this strange man into the public spotlight in 2013. While many loved him and few hated him, nobody truly knew who this person was. Regardless, no one expected this once lovable drifter to become the prime suspect in a gruesome and violent murder in New York. And so today, we'll be diving into the past, present, and future of this extraordinarily weird individual, analyzing what led up to his crime and punishment, and reviewing the final moments of his victim. Welcome back to Coffeehouse Crime, folks. My name is Adrian, and today we're traveling to New York to look at a story where a micro-celebrity became the center of a murder investigation. In this video, we're looking at the rise and fall of Caleb McGilvery, also known as Kai, or Kai the Hitchhiker. While some of you may recognize him, others won't, but regardless, I'm sure that all of us can agree that this guy is one cooked cookie. By the way, I post true crime up to 2 times a week here, so if that does sound like your kind of thing, please consider subscribing.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Shall we begin today? Please grab yourself a coffee and let's caffeinate while we investigate. This is the case of Kai the Hitchhiker.
Man, I have a feeling it's gonna be fucked up.
Now today, we'll be traversing the United States and following our prime suspect, who likes to lead a nomadic lifestyle. Now, right off the bat, despite lacking a fixed residence, Kai prefers to use the term home free over homeless. Now, as you'll soon come to find out, it appears that this man means no harm to anyone. After all, he's a so-called free spirit. Just remember that next time someone tells you the same thing. Tucking into our story today, it was in the year 2013 when the city of New York woke up to a chilling story. On the morning of May the 13th, 2013, Joseph Galfi, a 73-year-old attorney, failed to show up to his workplace. What started as an ordinary Monday took a rather ominous turn when his secretary was unable to reach him. She began to panic when all of her calls were diverted to voicemail. That was because Joe was known for his unwavering punctuality, and so his absence soon sparked concern throughout the workplace. Now, Joe was an elderly man who also lived alone, and so, with his wise age, anything could happen. Fearing for his safety, the emergency services were called, and the police were dispatched to his home on Starlight Drive in Clark, New Jersey. Unfortunately, that routine wellness check they were planning for would never happen successfully, and that's because when they got to his property, they were greeted with a nightmare. Now, initially, everything appeared to be in order. The house was tidy, and you could tell that whoever lived there clearly took great care of it. As they advanced through the house and ultimately reached the main bedroom, police officers suddenly felt a chilling and morbid shift. There on the floor, officers found Joseph Galfi's body at the end of his bed.
Oh,
He was
shit.
cold to the touch, lay in a pool of his own blood, and notably was only wearing his underwear and a pair of socks. No surprise, Joe's property was
Maybe he was sleeping in his underwear, and he's the weirdo that likes to sleep in his socks. I mean, if, like, I hear something, I jump out of bed and someone kills me, the police are going to come in, they're going to find me bucket naked. It's comfy. It's very comfy. I'm just saying.
immediately placed under lockdown, with his death now to be treated as a homicide. Several areas of his skull were fractured, including parts of the skull that are some of the strongest bones in the human body. It became evident that he had died from blunt force trauma from many blows over his body, including to his eyes, mouth, ears, the back of his head, neck, shoulders, arms, and ribs. All of these injuries confirmed that Joe had been brutally attacked, which, according to forensics, had even included being stomped on. The crime scene
Damn.
was Rather odd, however. There were no signs of a break-in or struggle anywhere else in the property. And so, without any apparent motive, the authorities began examining the crime scene more closely. In the end, it was two small pieces of paper that caught their attention. On a pop-up table next to the sofa, detectives found a laptop. And underneath this laptop was an email and phone number that appeared to have been recently scribbled down. And alongside those details was a name no other than Lawrence Kai. This is a fairly typical procedure to any homicide investigation. If you see any names lying around, you grab the contact details and then get in touch. But after Googling Kai's name, officers realized that this guy was not the typical person you'd expect to hang out with a 73-year-old man. Found on the front page of Google, detectives found a YouTube video that was going viral and published only a few weeks prior. This video was taken shortly after a traffic accident that had happened on the other side of the country in Fresno, California. And what do you know? The main character in this interview was Kai. The traffic accident left a man pinned between two vehicles. But as you'll soon come to realize, as this interview goes on, the circumstances only get stranger.
Can I get your name and where you're from, if you don't mind?
I'm Kai.
Kai, can I get spelling for you?
Straight out of Dogtown, K-A-I.
It is no surprise that this interview went entirely viral, especially back in the day when the internet was not filled with so much crazy content. I mean, after all, Kai was an eccentric being with a very interesting lifestyle, one who had resorted to violence in order to become a hero. So it's no surprise why this did the numbers on social media. Within that very same week, Kai's interview ran rampant across America like uncontrollable malware. Now, luckily, his video had nothing but peculiar characters and goofy vibes. However, it does make you wonder if all of his viewers knew how to protect themselves. And that is where the sponsor of today's video, NordVPN, comes in. Malware steals and destroys your data by infiltrating a device, typically through email attachments, software downloads, or operating system vulnerabilities. In this ever-changing digital landscape, it can be very hard to outsmart the many tactics used with malware. That is why NordVPN's threat protection ad blocking is incredibly useful and does all the work for you. Whether you're at home, traveling, or accessing public Wi-Fi, NordVPN encrypts your internet connection, keeping your data safe. And plus, with thousands of servers worldwide, you can unlock content from anywhere. With its dark web monitor and threat protection features, NordVPN has saved me countless times while researching these stories, keeping me and my data safe. Stay one step ahead and take control of your online experience today. Right now, you can get a 2-year plan at a huge discount plus 4 additional months for free.
Because I imagine you gotta go to like some hard to get places to get some of the videos and pictures that they're looking for and stuff. So I imagine the VPN comes in amazing for that. I'm just saying, like, it comes in handy for like TV and stuff. It's gotta come in handy for that shit.
Just use my link, nordvpn.com/coffeehousecrime. What's more, it's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/coffeehousecrime. Or click the link in the description below. Thank you NordVPN for sponsoring today's video and keeping me out of Dogtown. Now let's get straight back to our case. Back to our case, Kai's interview clearly demanded some clarification. According to him, he was hitchhiking around Fresno when someone along the road picked him up. The man was later identified to be Jet Simmons McBride, and standing at 6'4" and weighing over 300 pounds, he was an absolute unit of a man. Unfortunately though, he wasn't as wise as he was strong. They shared various conversations throughout their journey, with Kai talking about his home-free lifestyle. You may or may not have been able to tell from the interview that Kai is somewhat of a hippie drifter, one who would live out of his backpack and off the kindness of others. So it's no surprise that, while on their trip, Kai rolled a sizable joint and eventually began to smoke. And of course, being the generous person that he was, he also offered to share some with Jet, an offer that, as an allegedly responsible driver, he failed to turn down. So, now we have a drifter and a man currently driving a vehicle who are both high on weed. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Well, eventually, Jet would even reveal some secrets about him that nobody else knew. This included deep and dark secrets, including beating up his friends, racist remarks, and even sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl. So, Jet was now beginning to paint himself as a rather dangerous individual, and Kai, he was picking up on these red flags. And in that very moment, that was when
I assaulted a 14-year-old, I beat up people, blah, blah. If Kyle wasn't picking up on the red flags, he ain't a hippie. He's just stupid. We all picking up on the flags, bruh.
Jet suffered a complete meltdown. Now, when I say meltdown, I mean he entirely lost his shit. Apparently, he was driving and swerving all over the road, and even claimed to be Jesus Christ, an invincible superhuman. And you can probably guess where this eventually would go. That is when he swerved off the road and ran into a civil worker who was standing behind a truck. In a moment of quick thinking, Kai wrestled the keys from Jet, only to find him exiting the vehicle and continuing with his violent outburst. And as two women tried to intervene and help the civil worker, Jet then grabbed hold of one of them. Thinking and acting swiftly, Kai grabbed the hatchet from his bag and then delivered 2 blows to Jet's head, using the axe's blunt side to avoid things getting too messy. But when this failed to stop him, Kai then resorted to using the blade instead, with this blow inflicting a sizable bloody wound. Now, despite the chaos, Kai's actions stopped Jet from any further damage, aiding in his arrest by the time police arrived several minutes later. And it was during this tumultuous aftermath that the interview, later broadcast on the local news station, took place. As you can see, as Kai attempted to leave the scene, he was then stopped by the news anchor Jacob Raisbeck. And recognizing the interview's mix of a positive message with bizarre circumstances, Jacob decided to share it with the broader audience by uploading it to YouTube. But little did anyone know that this viral footage would later lead the authorities across the country to a rather unlikely suspect. A homeless drifter who, while expressing violent tendencies on camera, still harbored well-meaning intentions. Now, although this footage wasn't enough to directly link Kai to the crime, a crucial clue was later found at the crime scene. Of course, that being the train ticket purchased just 1 day before Joseph's death. Armed with a timestamp and date of the ticket purchase, investigators contacted the corresponding station shortly after, where they then requested the surveillance footage over that time frame. Despite being uncertain to begin with, the investigators would eventually strike gold when the surveillance footage from the vending machine revealed that Joe Galfi had in fact purchased the ticket.
Really?
The very same one found at the crime scene. In this surveillance footage, he engages in conversation with someone off camera before the other person eventually steps into view. A bedraggled figure with shoulder-length scraggly hair and a bandana can be seen. Of course, that being strikingly reminiscent to that of Kai in the interview. He then proceeds to brush his teeth in the middle of the station. And after a brief hug, almost as a gesture of gratitude, the two then depart together. Now, this surveillance footage led detectives to plenty of valid questions. I mean, why was Kai hanging out with a 73-year-old man?
Exactly.
How did the two meet? What was Joseph's motives? And, above all else, how would this end in his murder? Well, to be sure, there was only one way to find out.
Those were all the same exact questions I was going to ask.
They would have to find Kai and then bring him in for questioning. However, this would be rather tricky to do. I mean, Kai did not have a home to go to, and to add to that, he had no ID, credit cards, or social security number. So, with that in mind, the authorities released this information to the public, and of course, everyone was shocked to see that he was now wanted for—
How do you not have a social security number? He's got a name. How does he not have a social security number?
For murder. All of this was in total contrast to his heroic actions just a few weeks prior, and in addition to this, he had just testified against Jet.
With no hatchet in hand this time, the man known as Kai took the stand, but not before causing a few observers to chuckle.
Just a moment. Listen to the clerk as she states the oath to you so that you can respond to it, and you only need one hand up, the right hand.
During his 2 hours of testimony, Kai explained in more detail the events leading up to the crash, including how he and Jet McBride stopped in the Tower District to buy and smoke marijuana. Kai then testified that just before the crash, McBride proudly told him about raping a 14-year-old girl.
He's like, well, I've come to realize I'm Jesus Christ, and I can get away with anything I want to. Watch this. And I look up, and there's a whole crew of construction people in front of me, and I'm Most of them jumped aside. One dude got pinned underneath.
While PG&E worker Rayshawn Neely was pinned, Kai says McBride then turned on several people who tried to help.
He's still holding on to her, so I smashed him again, and he's still holding on to her hair. I was like, ends here, bud. I smashed him real good and hard.
Rayshawn Neely then talked about the pain he has been living in since that day. Then in a surprise move, as Neely wheeled out of the courtroom, McBride apologized.
Sorry, Rayshawn.
But then again, he ended violence by using more violence. So, with that in mind, was he capable of using his aggression in more nefarious ways? Following his good
Potentially.
work, Kai became a viral sensation, with everyone wanting to know him, with his official nickname being Kai the hatchet-wielding hitchhiker. However, little did anyone know that behind the facade of this carefree and loving gentleman was an extremely dysfunctional human being, one that would often abuse weed and alcohol. Unfortunately, Kai would often drink and smoke whenever the opportunity was available, and this wouldn't be more obvious than over the time when he had an appearance on TV, most notably the Jimmy Kimmel Show. In fact, in the days leading up to the show, Kai's unruly behavior required constant supervision by the show's ambassadors. Recognized wherever he went, public outings inevitably led to crowds clamoring for photos with Kai. Yet, even amidst the glitz of Hollywood, his impulsive tendencies could never be contained. In a momentary lapse of attention
Maybe
from
he
his
is a hippie.
escorts, Kai then proceeded to brazenly urinate in public on Hollywood Boulevard. Of course, much to the shock and surprise of bystanders. And after being rushed back to the hotel, he then wasted no time in indulging in a whole bottle of Jack Daniels. Recognizing the dangerous potential for public disturbance, one of his supervisors took it upon herself to offer him shelter in her own home before his Jimmy Kimmel interview. But even after this kind gesture, Kai continued to act and behave in a very unhinged manner. Upon arrival at the studio, he once again urinated in public, this time aiming at a sign leading to the set. Now, obviously, through these actions, it seemed that Kai harbored a disdain for celebrities. But the interesting thing here is that that didn't stop him from leaning into their world. Despite, or maybe even perhaps because of his eccentricities, Kai became a well-sought-after guest, with his antics promising good television and publicity. And as you would likely imagine, the interview with Jimmy Kimmel unfolded in a manner that was very true to Kai's character. Following this interview, Kai was then handed a large sum of money for appearing on the show. Yet, aside from occasional snapshots shared by unsuspecting bystanders on social media, this marked the final public appearance of the infamous hatchet-wielding hitchhiker. And shortly after this, he quietly resumed his journey as a nomad. That would be until just a couple months later, and in May of 2013, that Joe Galfi's death was publicized, all with Kai being the prime suspect.
So who's Joe
Due
to
to
this
his recent
guy?
publicity, it wouldn't actually
Like, yay, we're hearing the one dude's backstory, but what's the old dude's connection to him? Is there any?
take long for officers to find him, and only 3 days later, he was apprehended while trying to catch a bus in Philadelphia. The situation would only become stranger from here on out, though. During his interrogation, Kai was more than willing to tell the authorities exactly what happened. Of course, from his perspective. According to Kai, the two met in Times Square while at the Greyhound bus station. Apparently, Joe approached him before striking up a conversation. He asked Kai where he was heading, to which he replied, New Jersey. Apparently, Joe then offered to take him there for free and even give him a place to stay for the night. As a homeless person without many options, Kai eventually accepted the offer.
That does sound nice.
I mean, after all, what kind of threat could an elderly man be? And so, without much thought, the two then headed out to Joe's. Proven by the number of empty bottles at the crime scene, several beers and wine were shared. But according to Kai, after going to bed that night, he woke up to a rather nasty surprise.
He picked me up in New York. He says, "Oh, you look lost, you know, like, where are you from, this and that." And I says, "Dogtown." I said I was going to New Jersey. And he said that he was headed to New Jersey too. So I went with him to his house. And when I was at his house, he gave me a bunch of beers. And then I got kind of sleepy right before bed. I woke up and it was like there's a metallic taste in my mouth. And there's like cum going down inside my face. and I felt violated. I went over to Asbury to meet a friend, and she wasn't showing up. I called him because I didn't think I had any other place to go.
Now, obviously, this would have been a traumatic experience for Kai, if his story is to be believed. But the strange thing is, the next day carried on positively and as usual. Joe continued with his support, made Kai breakfast, and even asked him where he planned to go next. And later that day, he even purchased a ticket for him to meet up with his friends in another neighborhood. This is where the surveillance footage captured at the train station comes in clutch. It was noted that, after buying his ticket, the two hugged. And after that, Joe then gave Kai his phone number just in case he ever needed a place to stay. Later that evening, Kai's friends never showed up, and so, with nowhere to go, he decided to give Joe another call. He was back at his place by the late evening, and as it turns out, this would be the fateful night that only one of them would come out alive. According to Kai, Joe made them homemade burgers and several drinks. And again, according to him, it was in that moment that he blacked out.
I went and I ate some food with him. He had made some burgers, like some homemade burgers. And then I don't remember much after that. I woke up on his floor and he was over top of me trying to take my pants down. I started hitting him. I just blacked out.
Now remember folks, when all else fails, simply claim that you blacked out. If you can't remember it happened, then surely you're still safe to remain in society, right? Maybe I'll do that next time I screw up someone's coffee order. Apparently, Kai remembers nothing after he blacked out, and although he doesn't recall leaving the residence, he does remember eventually going to a diner. And of course, shortly after, that is when he was eventually arrested by the authorities.
Really?
Kai's trial would take 5 years to arrive. During this time, he was hospitalized.
Was he doped up? I mean, none of us know what happened there. Just him and the poor dude that's dead knows what happened. And honestly, I don't put nothing past no one anymore. I don't trust this dude's face at all, like in any way, shape, or form. That dude's face right there. Kai. But we wasn't there, I guess.
After suffering self-inflicted wounds. It is also confirmed that he tried to take his own life, which further exemplified the state of his mental health at the time. His trial commenced in April 2019, nearly 6 years after his initial arrest. Unfortunately, cameras were barred from the courtroom, likely due to confidentiality reasons or to diminish Kai's public exposure. Official documents suggest that Kai remained silent during the court proceedings. However, that did not stop the occasional sporadic outburst, especially when he disagreed with his legal counsel. This hinted at Kai's struggle to maintain self-control, and despite his insistence on representing himself, the judge denied his request at every opportunity. The defense argued that the incident was an act of self-defense, asserting that Mr. Galfi exploited Kai's vulnerabilities and dependencies. However, the autopsy findings detailing the brutality of the beating painted a very different picture, one that portrayed a scene of unbridled rage rather than self-defense. To add to that, Kai accused the court, including his defense team, of conspiring against him, alleging bias due to Mr. Galfi's status as a prominent attorney in the local area. Despite raising several conflicting points in his defense, several fair questions remained. For example, why was a rape kit administered to Mr. Galfi but not to Kai? Why weren't forensic tests conducted on the glasses and bottles Kai handled? And why wasn't semen found at the crime scene tested to confirm its source? Ultimately, none of these questions were answered, and while facing a jury, Kai received a sentence of 57 years for the murder of Joseph Galfi. Upon delivering the sentence, Judge Kitch remarked, "You created this public image of a surfing free spirit, unshackled by the constraints of materialism and consumption. However, underneath that free spirit, the jury saw another side of you. You are a powder keg of explosive rage, a cold-blooded, calculated, and callous killer." While still on record, Kai himself replied,
So the old dude could have been doing something to him? I'm not saying Kai was in the right to kill him by any means, but if you get, if what Kai's saying is true and he was date rape basically, like the date rape drug, right? Give it to him, passed out, bad things happen to him. If you woke up in the middle of that and beat the living shit out of someone who was trying to assault you, does that mean you're a murderer? And then once again, it's just a little Pudwhacker's word against someone who's a lawyer and old, you know, dead. So it does not look too good for Kai. But if the evidence wasn't going through the way it's supposed to, who's to say what he's saying didn't happen? I just think there should have been a better job with the evidence and everything, other than we already know what we want to do with him and let's just go with it. You know what I mean?
With.
I'm not saying he's innocent by any means. He could be guilty of shit, but do it the right way. Get your shit there the correct way. You know what I mean, bro?
This has been nothing but a sham trial. You have railroaded an innocent man.
I don't know
Shame
about
on
that.
you. Whether he wants to accept accountability or not for his actions, Kai will now spend the rest of his life behind bars. A small price to pay for taking another man's life. Granted, this case is quite the strange one, and I don't think we will ever know what really happened between the two.
Probably not. Is there a way to still go back and check certain evidences?
All of Joe's friends claim that he was very simply a man of the law, which makes sense because he was a professional attorney. As for his sexuality, it is noted that he had several male friends that would stay overnight quite often, with one of them even living in the property shortly before. Now, it could be argued that Joe was using his bed to lure vulnerable people into his home. However, on the flip side, it may have just been an act of kindness that eventually came with benefits. Either way, we will probably never know the full story. Joe is not here to tell us after all.
He's got a point, and we will probably never know. I really enjoyed Dave's story, though. Man, that was a fucked up story. Like, that's the thing I like about Coffeehouse Crime. I know it's not the biggest thing I do on this channel, but I like Coffeehouse Crime because coming out, it's like, I just feel awful for everyone involved because he literally makes me think sometimes, is my anger justified towards this person? You know? And I can respect that. I like that. All right. I really enjoyed today's video. If y'all enjoyed today's video as much as I did, please go down there, leave a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. And while you're down there, if you want, go on over and hit that subscribe button. Become part of the Bill 5000 Nation. We do some crazy shit here. And if you want to know when that crazy shit happens, ding that bell. It might work for you. It's not going to work for you. A few of you, and I love you guys for it, have actually jumped in there and said, hey, you dinged me, Bill. But not as many as what I'd figure. I still like it though. Thank y'all so much. And welcome all new subscribers. Welcome to the Bill 5000 Nation. Welcome to the family. Seriously. Much love you guys' way. And if for some reason anybody is leaving comments that I have not gotten back with, or have left comments that you just aren't there or whatever, I am having problems with my comments. I don't know what's going on. Some of them I can see and it will not let me respond to them in any way, shape, or form. They say they've been removed, and I don't know what's going on. And I know some of y'all can remove your comments and stuff, and I'm not saying each and every single problem is a YouTube problem. Some of y'all could just be like, oh, that sounds stupid, and took it down. But for the ones that's like, no, I did delete and I never took it down, I don't know. I really don't. I do apologize though, and as they come in, when I get them, I do try to answer them as quickly and as promptly as I can. All right. I just have to say it because some people are getting a little upset on the comments, and I'm upset too, trust me. But there's only so much I can do just in general. All right. I really enjoyed today's video though. As always, be good to one another. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Oh, I need to go take a shower. Like, I just feel nasty.
You're